Hello and welcome to another episode of the Daily Tip Show, episode 3 on the Inspired Business TV channel with myself, Gary Setterfield, and Sukhi Wahiwala. Do you know, today what we're going to do is we're going to look at the 10 key tips in order to deliver a focused video content online. Because in today's society, in the current situation we have with COVID-19, we are all having to provide and run our businesses completely differently. So how do we now do that? We can't engage face to face because we're in lockdown. So how do we engage with each other online or through video, Facebook or Skype? And the same applies for our families with all the videos that we're going to be doing with them. So as I say, with myself, Gary Setterfield, award-winning business entrepreneur, global Synergist Method Master Trainer and DFT Mindset Coach, and my good friend and fellow business partner, Sukhi Wahiwala, again, award-winning business entrepreneur, sought after international business speaker, mentor, and global thought leader and Forbes judge. Hi, Sukhi.
Hi, how are you doing, everybody else? Everything well? I hope everybody's really doing well during this COVID period of time that's upon us.
Well, Sukhi, as I said, we're having to adapt our business. We're having to adapt our lives. And what I thought I'd like to do is just have a look at how can we now correspond with each other? How can we run businesses effectively through focused video online content, making sure that it's engaging, that we have the content correct. And sort of, have we got 10 tips that we can perhaps give the audience to keep them throughout engaged? And then we can look at any chats that they want to. And remember, guys, if you want to comment or if you want to make any suggestions, then please do look at the chat room down below, make a comment, and we will pick it up for the next episode. So Sukhi, what's the first thing that we need to sort of be thinking about?
Hi guys, do you know, this is such a valid topic in today's movement, in today's business environment. It's not just due to COVID, not due to just lockdown. It's actually the real purpose of an easy medium, which we all understand and know, of how to engage with multiple audiences, to be open to more than just the one person. And as we are today, we're kind of in effect, rightly or wrongly, being framed to be working from home. So I genuinely would like to share some really cool points. Now, this is actually a very social style of daily tips on our show. We do not try to become the refined experts in this environment. So this is genuinely for my inspired tribe, people who follow us online and the information that we're going to cover. So I'm going to get straight to the point with information such as, for example, if we just look at the screen, if you can just see myself right now, you'll probably see that I'm vaguely this is the framework scenario, I'm vaguely in the center of my screen. So if I was slightly off to the right, even though I may be looking and engaging, I'll have a different feeling upon you, because you'll always be constantly thinking, what's this empty space for? So if I position myself in the center, these are the things you've got to look at. If you look at the framework, if anybody's a photographer, this is another tip that you want to be looking for, is if you're a photographer, you already know this, that there's a frame rate. So we're looking at the top section. I've got approximately a third of the actual screen, and I'm in what we classify as the 2/3 environment of the screen. So here I'm focusing at 2/3 onwards. This is quite important because if I was, let's say, for example, if I was a little bit higher, can you see? Now my turban, my bug, is actually cut off. So your contemplation is that whilst you're listening to me, just at a quick check, you can see I'm looking at my screen now, but if I'm back to engaging with yourself, you now think that there's something missing, something consciously not correct in the screen. So if I then move myself down back here, what's happening now is, once again, you're listening to myself, you've got the information, you're direct contacting with me, but something's not feeling correct again. It feels as though there's too much air above me. And you're thinking, why am I not closer to his face? Because this is about engagement with one-to-one, isn't it? So I'm going to come back into where my natural sitting position is. Is that better? Yeah, so the point here is to ensure to know where you are within your screen It's very important to ensure that you're central of your screen, to ensure that you're communicating clearly. The second thing that I'm going to say is, if you notice my eyes for a second, if you look, engagement, if I'm looking directly at you and talking to you, you can clearly see that I hopefully that I'm a little bit more engaging than normal. But if I look at the screen, which is a tendency when you're using VoIP, which is voice over IP, which basically means any video recording over the internet that you're streaming and communication like we're using now. We're using a platform called Zoom.com, and there are plenty. There's many versions out there. For example, like Skype, as we know, the traditional route, and also things like Teams, which are within Microsoft systems. There's plenty. Okay, so whichever you subscribe to, it's fine. There's Be Live as well, which is another one. It's brilliant, using FaceTime Live, even YouTube Live, directly viewing straight out. So the context of what I'm trying to say to yourself, if you look at my eyesight, I'm now engaging you directly because I'm looking at the actual dot, if you watch my finger, above my screen, because I'm using a camera. But the moment I start to look at my actual picture, can you see? I'm not sure whether that feels a little bit disconnected. Does it feel a little disconnected, Gary?
Yeah, you don't look as though you're looking at me, Sukhi. That's the thing. And I think that's what you're trying to emphasize here.
Correct. So now I'm, if I'm kind of talking directly to my own picture or to your picture, your image, you can clearly see that possibly I feel as though I'm not talking to you. So what happens is that when you're actually delivering content directly, you must do this. We must be looking at the actual camera dot. So one of the key things you could do is looking at the camera above your Mac, PC, whatever your device is. You should be putting some kind of a colored dot. This is something that I learned from a good friend of mine. His name is Jatinder Palha. He has a yellow dot just above his camera. I seem to find it quite easy to look at the actual camera, so I'm all right with that. But otherwise, another little tip from him would be to put a little dot, one of those little colored spots, or even a piece of paper stuck to it, or even some blue tack just above the camera. So you're looking at that blue tack. You remind yourself that you've got to keep looking at that to speak. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the key things that we do is before we even get though, Sukhi, to looking at this camera and our positioning, let's just talk about the camera, the setup of the camera. Okay,
so in this modern world, through YouTube deliveries and communication, so the key thing here is sound, is the quality of the sound and the quality of the image and picture. Now, we've purposefully, for this particular recording, we've kept a difference between my recording quality and Gary's over the other side. So Gary's using the actual screen. I'm doing this to show you the difference, by the way. If you look at Gary's image, if Gary's to say something.
Hi there, everybody.
Yeah, so if you look at Gary's image, just to make it, you'll come back to me obviously now, is that you'll see that he's using the indigenous camera inside the Mac, inside his PC, sorry. And I myself are using a HD camera, which is an aftermarket product, which I've popped on top of my Mac or PC. Now, the product that we're using, which I'm using personally, is a product called Logitech, and it's a HD C for Charlie 920. There is no links in this particular video yet, but I will try to locate it when this goes live on YouTube. I'll put a link down just below, so you can see, you click on that and buy your own version. It's anything from around £40 up to £100, because there are various ordering platforms, and they all have their own version. So that camera, HD camera, I think, in my opinion, makes a massive difference, because if I went to my indigenous camera, which I'm not going to for a moment, actually, why not? Let's try. Let's see if we can do it live, just to show you the difference. I should be going in a second. I've actually got my camera above it, so I'll stop it. So what I'll say is I'll just stick to the fact that I'll stick with this camera if you don't mind. And basically what happens here is the sharpness of the camera makes a massive difference, and it streams better, it looks better, people think you're engaged better. So if you look at the next thing I'm going to talk to you about is actually what we call a microphone. So if you can just see, I'm using this particular microphone. It looks like a brilliant, stunning 1950s style, sort of like it's a microphone, not made by Samsung, it's made by Samsung, like the name Samsung. It's a Samsung microphone, and if I remember, I'm just going to pop it back down, excuse me, and I'll tell you the actual name of this as well. This is called the Samsung Meteor microphone. The benefit of using something that's an aftermarket product is that you don't get what we classify as the tinny sound. I'm just going to let you listen to the difference here. So definitely can do this one. This is the Samsung microphone. I'm going to go back to the microphone from on the indigenous map. Should be slightly different. Is that correct, Mike?
It is. It is very different. Yes, there's a. It's quite tinny.
And is this basically sounding? I suppose you could say my voice seems to have changed. I'm hoping the impact will have changed as well. And if I go back to the Samsung, is this, and then the link will be down below as well. Samsung Meteor mic. Now,
Much clearer.
Much
clearer and directional as well.
Correct, and the voice should be deeper. It should have a bit more bass involved in the voice as well, and actually it should be softer. And it tends to pick up less what we call alternate, surrounding noise as well. Hope that's helpful. So these are two
very good, very
simple, not expensive at all. You could do this for around £100 quite easily. You could easily get a microphone like the one I'm using here for as little as £50, and on the same stage you can get the Logitech as well for the same sort of money. Okay, so they're the two things I'd suggest very strongly that you invest in ASAP.
Okay, fantastic. So we've talked about framework, we've talked about the eyes, we've talked about the setup of the camera, and we've talked about the microphone. How do we prepare ourselves ready for our conversations with each other?
This is a really cool thing. Now, these are bite-sized bits of information, so we're not going into deep dives. So the first thing you've got to look at here, it's just a quick tip to everybody, it's a quick power tip, is that we basically always use pieces of paper. You must have what we classify as a lovely pad next to yourself, some kind of form of pen, writing utensil, because whilst you're talking, you may well just want to write something down very quickly and just note it down so that your brain doesn't forget it, because while you're talking about something, it might come up. And one of the other key things you want to do before you start recording is you must understand what's the purpose of your recording, of your actual video. What is the real value that a person is going to receive from this? So if I could just go a bit more into structure and framework a little bit, if I could, Gary.
Yeah.
So one of the key things that one should have done is that you should have mapped out what the plan or the hypotheses, the purpose, the point behind the whole series is. So this series is called the Daily Tips Show. And that's principally what it is. It's a show, bite-sized chunks, maximum 10, maximum 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, and anything from 5 minutes to 15 minutes, depending on the topic itself. So we've got a framework. We can see that there's a time structure. And guess what? If you record over that time frame, then what you can do is you can go back and edit out certain bits that are not so important, maybe waffly, and you can bring them down, so you can bring your time size back down to 10, 15 minutes worth of content once again. The actual framework needs to be in place. So how long is this episode? How much information am I going to give? How deep am I going to go into the information? What is the purpose of the individual episode? This is episode 3, and this is about Zoom or online content, just quick content conversation. So that's what we're focusing on. Can you see? One of the other things that we're looking at is you must also in your mind remember that, of course, this is going to be recorded forever, or you can go online and delete it. You choose your platform. Once you've recorded it on your device, you choose which platform it goes up to. Personally, I would go into YouTube and then transfer it out of YouTube into various modes like Facebook, Instagram, etc., by editing it down. But I do prefer sending the information via YouTube first, creating a YouTube channel. We were speaking about this just yesterday on one of our business boardroom programs as well.
Okay.
One of the other things I want to bring to you just attention very quickly, remember this is not a big deep dive, this is like a quick tick-offs, is to ensure when you're recording, we're using Zoom, as I said. If we're using Zoom platform, always record in speaker view. So when you go to the screen, you go to full screen, you go speaker view, and you record in speaker view and not gallery. The purpose of this is that now, whilst I'm speaking, you should have me in full frame. And Gary, if you say something.
Hello there, I'm listening.
We should have Gary moved into Gary's full frame as well. So this within itself looks as though the program is being edited. And this is a key element. So when I'm speaking, it becomes big screen. When I'm not speaking, I disappear and Gary comes in. The other key thing is to ensure that you don't talk over your co-host if there's two of you, because logically, if I'm speaking, it's going to show my face. And if you speak, it cuts out and goes back. So it then causes a stretch between the person's mindset. Hope that's helpful.
Lovely. Well, we talked about timing. It's just coming up now for the end of our session. Thank you very much, Sukhi, for those 10 tips. So everybody, let's just have a recap, shall we? We talked about the framework. We talked about where you position yourself on the screen. We talked about eye contact, making sure that you look at your audience, making sure you engage with them. We've talked about the setup of the camera, and then we talked about the microphone. We also said have together with yourself a pen and pad so that you can make notes as you're going through. The key, though, is about the real value of your content. What do you want to say to your audience? And make sure that it's of value to them and it will help them. Have a plan, a framework that you're going to work to. And when we talk about content, make sure it's clear. Make sure that you set it out previously that what you want to cover, and make sure you cover those points. And then finally, what platform are you going to choose? How are you going to deliver this content, this call? We're using Zoom, but there are other platforms out there. Sukhi mentioned Skype. He also mentioned Be Live. And then finally, what view to have of the camera. So we're using Speaker View. And if there is anything else that you would like to know about, then please do comment below where it says chat, leave us your thoughts, and we will pick those up in the next episode. So I hope you enjoyed today's daily tips. Remember, please do share this with your friends, your family. Remember to follow us on Sukhi's official social media channels. That's YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. And remember, we're here to help. It's just a conversation between Sukhi and myself. But if there is other information you'd like, please do let us know, and we'll see you in the next episode. Take care then. Have a great day. Bye.